and welcome to this week's Spotlight. Now, years and years ago, I was directing at Teddington Studios, and down my beautiful talkback came the sound of the Florence Nightingale of vision engineers. And I am so proud to bring you today the one, the only, Sarah Rees-Matthews. Hello, Sarah.
Yeah, I've never been called that before, but I've been called many things, but not that.
Now, just to be clear, you are now a technical supervisor at Sky? Is that what they call them?
A vision engineer role is kind of incorporated within my role as a technical supervisor. A technical supervisor does many things. So we're basically the most technical people in the gallery. I call it a technical secretary, because if there's an issue, people will come to me and I would either have to fix it if I can, if it's something that I know in my area, or call the people that do know, like if it's a graphics or a data issue. That's not really my area of expertise. We've got a department for that. So I need to point the questions in the right direction. But obviously, as it's live TV, time is of the essence. So you need to have a good engineering knowledge to do that. A vision engineer tends to be mainly just sitting in front of the racks, which are the RCPs, which is, it's a very long story, but they are basically the iris, the colour, the matrix, the gamut, all your technical geeky stuff of the camera that I'm in charge of, which in short is making sure all the cameras in a multi-camera studio, which obviously most of them are, match. That's in exposure for iris and in colour, which is in your whites and your blacks and things. So I'm basically sat there while the production is going on. I mean, there's a lot more to my role, but the vision engineer role is to make sure that the cameras match. So when the director is cutting them, at home, you don't notice the difference. You don't know my role exists. You're just sat there watching your telly program, your football, say, like, yeah, okay, let's load the cameras. If it wasn't matching, you would really notice. One would be brighter, one would be darker, the blacks could be at different levels, and it's something that you would notice it. You don't notice when it's right, but you notice when it's wrong. A vision engineer role, yeah.
Right. So let's talk about your journey. Obviously, a lot of the guys here in the students will be looking at, right, okay, I'm coming out of uni now. I want to go into vision engineering. I want to go into very technical stuff. Tell us your route. What was the route you took?
The most vital thing you need to have is a good fundamental understanding of electronic engineering. That is the kind of your bread and butter of it all. So how the television signal is made up, what a vector scope does, what it's for, how you use it, how the TV signal's made is basically, it's not much to learn, but there's a few things that you do need to understand. But that's not to say that everybody that joins, certainly Sky, in my role, has that background. But we certainly would teach that at Sky, so that you've all come from a base knowledge. You've all got a fundamental understanding of that, because it's very important when you go on to more advanced things, like we talk about gamut and black balance and things like that, that you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. I'm a very geeky kid, and when I was young, I wanted to be a camera operator, because you don't know about things like vision engineering. Why would you? So I geared all my education towards being a camera operator, and that's where I met yourself when we were at Ashington University, and you're in the year below, I think, a bit below, and I really wanted to be a camera operator. My first job was multi-skilling, which involved camera operating, but then I realised it really didn't do it for me, cameras. And then I found out about the role vision engineering, and what made me really fall in love with it was my company I work for, QVC, the shopping channel. They hired an outside broadcast unit to do one of their shoots on the Isle of Wight. And this truck turns up, just a normal looking truck, parks, and then the sides start to expand. And you open the door and it's a TV gallery in this truck. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And you just turn up in the middle of a field in many cases, and you make TV happen. And that was when I fell in love with that job. I was like, that's what I want to do. So I then, even when I was working at QVC, I had a job, but I would volunteer. I would do work experience on OBs. I would just beg people to say, please, can I come along? Can I just see what you're doing? And it got to a stage where people were saying, you can really be paid for what you're doing, Sarah. You're actually, you're as good as any of us type thing, which of course I didn't believe because that's my nature. And then I got enough confidence, and this is when we met you, because I went freelance. I left QVC and I would freelance at many studios and OB companies, and then I eventually got a job at an OB company, and I was there for 8 years. And then it's a commitment on your lifestyle doing OBs and TV in general. It's not your Monday to Friday 9 to 5. You have to love the job. You work when there's sport. You work when people are watching telly, because especially live TV, obviously. It's different in pre-recorded TV. That's more, obviously can be a little bit more scheduled. But live TV, you work when there's sport, when there's a call for you. So I would be away. I'd be on the golf for 5 days. My biggest time I was away was, it's quite jammy really, but I was away 52 nights in Barbados.
Oh
yes, it was the World Cup cricket. So, but it's a commitment. And then I got a bit, wanted to start a family and things. So then I went to Sky, and the roles similar but different at Sky. There's elements of the job that are the same, but then I'm a lot more, as I say, more involved in other areas as well at Sky. So
now, you said there are some sort of core key things that if you're going to be a vision engineer, you need to know. So go into it in a little bit more detail. What would be those core things that you definitely need to know, and that somebody like Sky or whatever, an OB company, would definitely be looking for? What would they be? What technical things would they be?
Your very basic engineering. So like I say, how the TV signal is made up. I learned through a very old system called POW, as did you probably, which is how originally TV started. Now, all the bases of television that we see today, SD, HD, HDR, is based on that POW signal. That's your absolute basic you need to know. You need to understand what synchronizes, what how everything needs to be synchronized. You need to know like the color bars, like how to remember color bars. And
go on, how do you remember color bars? Go on.
When you catch German measles from rain team blankets, and how things are, how the TV signal's made up.
Perfect. So you're sitting in the multi-camera TV studio gallery, and you're looking at the panel that I sent you the image of. So what exactly what exactly is that? Presumably some of them is controlling the iris, and some of it controlling exposure and all that kind of thing. But what else? What do some of those buttons do? What is it for?
So they do many things. It's you're the back end of the camera, basically. So the cameraman will be in the studio, pointing, maybe focusing, and framing. So they do that bit. But we do the iris. So I make sure that that's all the same across the board, which is what we use our scope for, which is the other bit of equipment. All the cameras go through the scope. And what the big buttons on the RCP that you're talking about do, you press down, and those RCPs then go to that monitor, and that image appears on that scope. So one camera at a time. And you can just press those buttons quite fast, like this. Yeah. And you're constantly, you'll only have about 4 or 5 cameras. You will not have loads, because you cannot do more than that. Even on your big football matches, each person in the truck doing the OBs will only have 4 cameras, and it's all separated. So you've all got your own little station, your own scope, your own monitor. You press down one stick, that camera goes to that monitor and that scope. And you press down to the next one, make sure it matches, both in iris and in color and in black level, which is the sit of the camera. I'm doing that because that's how it looks on the scope. And then you can do many more clever things like shutter, change the gamma, change the matrix of the actual camera, which is how the picture's made up.
Yeah, so the vector waveform generator is the one thing that's sort of telling you, if everything's equal, as well as your own visual eye, or would you rely very heavily on the waveform? And tell us basically, I know I am very well aware, having done the engineering, that it is a lot more complicated, but just tell us on a basic level what the waveform generator does.
So that is just the TV camera signal in light, basically. So when you look at it, first of all, you're like, what is that? But you can, there's different waveform is basically, you can just look at, that's the luma level. So that's where your iris sits. So that is your basic that you would have on there all the time. Then you've got your vector scope, which is the cross, which is where this PAL TV, how the picture's made up, comes in, because there's a few boxes on there, and if you had color bars on there at 100%, each color would sit in a box. So I can look at a vector scope without looking at a picture, without looking at a monitor, and I can tell what the majority of the color of the picture is, because it goes towards that. So if it's very blue, a lot of the dots would be towards the blue. And you can use that. It's very good for doing, like at the start of the production, you would do a white balance and a black balance, and you would make sure that's your absolutes, that's your dot in the middle. So you could use that just to get your cameras all the same at the beginning. I mean, we do it on a chart, but it's basically, yes, it's a way to match. That is, if your cameras match on the scope, they'll match on the monitor, pretty much. You have to tweak a little bit, but pretty much that's your starting point. And we had a bit of an issue. I work on a Soccer AM on Sky, and from the edit suite, they were providing us with some bumpers, the thing that go into the break and come out of the break, and they were over the volt and under the volt, which is the black level. And the thing is, it just doesn't look as crisp. By the time it goes through the TV chain, it will look a bit murky when it gets home, because it's been cut off electronically and not done nicely. So they talk, and out of gamma as well, it's just once it goes past a certain point, then it just kind of like cuts, the electronic signal just cuts it off. So you try and keep within gamma, you try and keep within your volt and things. And that's basically how you set. You've got what's called white clips on the camera, so you set them up so that you don't go into your illegal things, and that's something that you'll learn
in the days of 4K, UHD, HD. It sounds to me, from what you're saying, that a lot of television engineering in some ways has changed, but in some ways a lot of the old principles are still the same.
So the fundamentals are the same. Like PAL, it is just the number of lines. So PAL is 65 lines, and your HD is 1080, so that's double the amount of lines. And then UHD is yet more again. So, well, that's the issue with pixels, but yeah, you need a basic fundamental knowledge and understanding to then build upon to know the other things as well.
What's the best bit of your job?
When I'm sat at the RCPs ready to wrap the show, and you've got a really good band on the show, the lighting looks amazing, the gallery's all quiet, and you hear the DA counting 10, 9, and you get that buzz, and it's a live TV show, and you go, and on air, and you know that what you're doing, everybody can see. But the main thing is, ask for work experience and go along and see, and make sure you know what it is, because Sky do very good work experience programs, and we've got this young lady at the moment actually who's, for a year, she's going across all departments at Sky, from the photocopying, from the images room, from directing to cameras. She'll be up with us at the moment. Obviously during lockdown it's all of a change, but through sound, through everything. And she there's lots of experience, things like that, not only at Sky, other companies. Ask for work experience and go and see for yourself and see if it floats your boat, because you might think you want to do it, but then when you realise what it is, it's a lifelong commitment. And I would say only do it if you're really passionate about it.
What great advice. Sarah Rees-Matthews, thank you very much for being on Spotlight.
Bless you. Thank you, Brendan. Good to see you again.